I'm sorry.
We're here with Janae Sergio, world-renowned TikToker, author, influencer, and all-around badass.
Thank you.
And one of my heroes. And I got to meet you in person today, and that's awesome. It's great seeing your face, like your eyes just light up. You know what I'm saying? Like seeing you in person, it's just like, whoa, holy crap. And we also have Captain Darielle Santos. I just met her, but I don't know. I already like you. I just think you're killing it and getting after her. I can just tell. You know what I'm saying? I can just tell. And we are in Black Rifle Coffee in Niceville because Janae just happened to be in town and we had to meet up in person. And I'm so glad we did. We're live streaming, double TikToks going, 2 different TikToks going. That's just wild. And we're drinking really good coffee, so we're having a great time. But if you remember on our episode, I always start with 3 questions. Now, I want to change that up. I think we should each ask each other 1 random question. And I want you to start with her.
Start with her, a random question. What is your favorite leadership book and why?
I think any of the books by Brene Brown right now, like literally just pick one and what she has to talk about, vulnerability and how that's important in incorporating in your leadership. What we were talking about with Dee Dee Halfhill and shame and what Brene Brown has said about shame.
Right.
Yeah. And just any book from her.
That's awesome. What was like, what initially had you drawn to her? Was there any particular book or part of her story that really, sold you?
I think it was her story, her personal story. I think it was her just being female and a leader and showing someone like me that I can do it too. Kind of like how I look at someone like Janae and how she's succeeding. And she wrote a book and it kind of shows me, it kind of gives me a little bit of a push to keep on going. And that if people like these women are doing great things and writing books and making an impact in others, then maybe someday I can do that too.
You're going to write a book?
Maybe.
I would love that. I'm going to buy one.
I've got a few stories to share, but yeah.
Okay. Well, that was perfect answer. Okay, you got to ask me one now.
Okay. Can I ask you what your favorite assignment was and why in the military? Okay,
so my favorite assignment was probably my very first assignment, which was Anderson Air Force Base in Guam, because my worldview was so small. I was from, Washington, D.C., and that's all I ever knew. So when I got to go to essentially another country, it's American territory, but it's another country, different cultures and all that. But the beautiful thing about it was that I was in tech school for 6 months, and I went with about 12 or 13 classmates from tech school, including my whole class and then some. So we got to go together, so I wasn't alone like at my first base. I already had a support system. My best friend, Ronnie, was my suite mate. Excuse me. And so that was probably the first time I ever got to just figure out who I was.
Yeah.
I was in a band. I was a singer. I can't sing, but I was a singer for a screamo band. I was just getting out of my shell, and I had all my friends there. So it was just it was only a year and a half, but it was probably one of the most fun year and a half experiences, hands down, of my life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And the drinking age was 18 at that time. And your boy was 19. And I took advantage of that. And I'm probably one of the reasons why it is now 21.
You helped pave the way.
I helped pave the way. 100%.
You're one of those when we have those safety briefs and they're like, who's the reason for this safety brief? You're the one.
100%. I almost didn't make it out that base. Had I been any other career field other than maintenance, I would have been kicked out. 100%.
Yeah.
I had multiple LORs.
Oh no.
I was in my blues constantly. Everything that could go wrong just would go wrong. So it was just it was tough, but I got through it. And
look at you now.
Look at me now. Exactly. Haters, take that.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't actually have a question. Let's see, Janae. What should I ask Janae? Okay. If you could just pick any job in the whole world, and I know you already do cool stuff, but if I just said, Janae, whatever you want, you could be an expert in it.
Yeah.
You could be a freaking brain surgeon. I could snap my fingers and make it happen. Whatever job you want, what would it be?
Oof, that's a tough one. I could pick any job. What would I do? Okay, a lawyer.
Oh.
Yeah, or a judge, but I would want to do maybe like family law, so that I could help kids that are kind of going through hard times and advocate for them. It was always my dream, actually, growing up, was to be a lawyer. I also like to argue, so that helps.
Oh wow, I would hate to tick you off.
Yeah, I'm so scary. So I would have loved to be a lawyer, and it had always been my dream. But life took me on a different path, and when I got out, I did consider going to law school, but I still ended up just following a different path, and I love the path that I followed. But if I could, I'd try it.
I think you'd be a kick-ass lawyer.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are born to be one. They just don't always get that option to pursue it. You know what I mean? Okay, great questions all around, y'all. So thank you for that. So we're going to just roll right into our first topic, transitioning out of the military. So Janae, you picked these topics. When you picked transitioning out of the military, what came to mind for you?
What came to mind is we're actually kind of going through right now a very similar type of recession that we went through when I got out of the military. And prior to me transitioning out of the military, everything was great. And so the outlook was positive. But as soon as I got that DD 214, we rolled right into that 2008 recession. And I had a hard time finding jobs, and it was extremely challenging. It was humbling, because I was an E5 and I thought that I was going to get like a supervisor job or some kind of bigwig job.
You're like, dude, I'm an E5,
right?
bro. Like come on. We work at the White House.
I was like, I've led people. I could be a leader. I didn't even have a degree yet. But it was humbling because I wasn't even getting calls for interviews. And one of the misconceptions that I had was I was relying on my still active duty leaders to guide me, but they hadn't transitioned either.
Oh, that's a good point.
And so I looked to them as leaders, and I would, kind of seek guidance from them, but they didn't know how to help me. And so I wanted to prove everybody wrong, because, as you're starting to get out of the military, people kind of instill doubt in you. Oh, you're going to go work at McDonald's. I had a chief who told me that I was going to end up working at McDonald's. And so I wanted to prove to them that I could do it on my own, that I didn't need help. And so I went several months applying for every job that I could, and it just wasn't working out. And it became very humbling very quick. I had to look for leaders who had already transitioned out of the military. They had that experience. And that's where I talk about treat everyone as if they're superior to you, because in some way they are. Because, you may look to your military leaders as they're superior to you, but then when it comes time for them to transition, if you already have, you're going to be superior. You're going to be the one they seek guidance from, no matter what your rank was in the military compared to theirs. So I ended up finding a retired senior chief who had helped me kind of work my way into getting a position for the government. And then that's where I got my foot in the door, and I ended up ultimately being selected as a federal employee. So I wanted to share that, because I think it's important right now for people to understand that if you're getting out of the military, you can and will succeed, but it's going to be a little bit more challenging than you might have seen it be for those who have transitioned in, a year ago or 2 years ago, because of the recession that we're going through and jobs that are being lost.
So was there ever a point where you were like about to just give up and like pull your hair out?
There wasn't. I would not have given up. Because of what I have already been through in my life. I've never really given up, and I've always believed that it's going to work out. No matter what, it's going to work out. I did, however, feel like I had taken my family backwards, because I had gone from being homeless, joining the military, having this stable paycheck and this stable career for 8 years, and now all of a sudden here we are again, no job, nowhere to live, and we were kind of sleeping at my sister's house and had just a little bit of savings left. And I felt like maybe I made the wrong decision. Maybe the decision I made put my family backwards. And so what it did for me, though, is it actually made me work harder to get out of that situation, because I was like, no, we're not doing this. We're not going to go backwards in life. And so it motivated me to try harder.
Janae, you got that killer instinct. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I just tell you can't do something, like, that's all I need to say.
Yeah, that's motivation.
Do it.
Like, what happens when someone cheers you on? Is it the same effect, or?
I don't think people...
She goes faster.
Yeah, I do. It motivates me even harder, I think. But it motivates me to be inspiring in that way. So when people cheer me on, it's like, oh, so they're getting inspired by me, so now I need to do more. And but yeah, if somebody tells me I can't, I actually succeed in spite of them. And even further than I had planned in the first place.
I call that using the dark side of the force.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Like, if you're tapping into them dark side powers, you know what I'm saying? You're taking a negative and getting pissed off about it and then taking action. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I'm the same way. Like, I've always kind of beat myself up and had my low moments, but I've always found a way to like pull myself out of it. But I'll tell you when it got astronomically harder, because I'm coming towards retirement and now I have a family. So like when it was just me, I knew no matter at the end of the day, I could get through it. I could figure it out.
Yes.
But now that I have a family, it's like a whole nother layer of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not just, I can't just escape myself. I have to find a way that works for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, that must have been pretty scary.
And the anxiety builds up, right? It starts to build up as you get closer to that date. You know you've done all the right things. You know you've properly prepared. But as you start getting closer, you're still going to have that kind of panic of, oh my gosh, what do I do after this? You know, and you've had that stable career for 20 plus years.
Right.
So it's a good topic because you're coming up on it, and, you know, you're going to come up on it. And also you guys are leading right now actively in the military. And so, like, where I tell you that people are going to come to you and they're going to seek guidance from you, then now you're going to know, well, let's go find somebody who's already transitioned. Maybe they can help you. So you'll be able to help them find those resources instead of possibly misleading them. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think it's a good topic for those who are still in the military as well, especially leaders, to understand that there's a lot that those people are going to go through, and maybe to help pair them with someone who's already been through it.
Awesome. No,
Yeah.
I think that's all awesome. And Darielle, thoughts on transitioning out of the military?
So I'm still in, and I'm only a little bit over 9 years in. My husband's probably a lot more closer than I am. He's like 4 years out. And when people ask me if I'm going to pull chalks early, not do my full 20, my answer is probably like everybody else. I'm taking it an assignment at a time. My answer changes. It's like an assignment at a time sometimes, a year at a time, or a day at a time. It just depends on the mood. If I'm mad, if I'm mad at my job, if I'm happy, a lot of different variables affect that answer. But the answer is different every time I wake up. I do think about it a lot, no matter how many years or how less years I have in. And I wonder what's next and how can I best prepare myself. And there's so many variables. There's finances. Do I have enough of a financial cushion to leave? I also have a family to plan for, and I don't know if I want to take care of them the way that you wanted to take care of your kids. Yes. and your husband, Janae. How you're thinking about it, healthcare. Mm-hmm. A lot of that is huge, and it's extremely stressful. And then happiness is big. It's like I want to be happy. I want to be mentally happy with my life and where it's at. And so there's so many things that stress me out about whether I should stay in or not. I have thoroughly enjoyed my job over the last 9 years, but I know that there's also a lot more opportunities out there for me. I've learned so much, and I'm still learning, and I'm still writing my story, and it could go either way. But I'm glad that you mentioned, kind of think about those other mentors that you can have, because I myself am a leader of airmen who decide to punch out early and not do the full 20, and that's okay. And sometimes I forget that even though they have programs in the Air Force that you can go through to help you transition, I can also help connect them with others as a leader to help them get after whatever they need as they are transitioning. And maybe the answer is not another military body.
Yes.
It's someone outside that has gone through it like you. So I can use that for myself if the time comes, and then I can pass that information on to my airmen. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
That's awesome.
Definitely. And the Skill Bridge program,
Yeah.
you know, has been a blessing. So we have that too. Hopefully that sticks around. Okay, y'all. Great talk, great discussion. Here's a hot topic. Military influencers. Have you ever seen TikTok boots?
Yes.
Now, ironically, TikTok boots doesn't have that many TikToks. I think it has like 2. It actually lives on Instagram. I don't know why it's called TikTok boots. But anyways, that's where all the cringe military videos go.
Yes.
Is your boy on it? Yes, I am.
Are you? They won't post me.
My airman said, is like when it was like her first day there. She's like, is this you? And I was like, what is that? She's like, it's TikTok boots. I was like, is that good? What is that? She's like, no, it's cringe. And I was like, what?
What video was it?
It was the ring
doing?
light one.
Oh, you did that.
Yeah.
Okay. In uniform?
Yes.
Oh, man. That is cringe.
It is cringe. Yeah. But did it hit the mark? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Freaking nailed it. Nailed it.
I'm going to go back and watch it. I don't think I've seen it.
I have it pinned. I'm proud of it.
Just own it. I'm glad.
Like it's
you're
on the
owning it.
line of cringe to me.
Yeah.
Like it's just right there on the line. You know what I mean? But you know, you have it's a confusing time for us still serving. For me to do a podcast, what's acceptable, what's not.
Yes.
When you look at someone like public affairs for the Air Force, they can't, I mean, their lane is so narrow that they're one of the reasons I started this podcast, because I started one with PA at Whiteman, and our lane was so narrow that there was no creative control, and I said, I'm not doing this. Like, no. I'm doing this on my own because y'all got too many rules.
That's awesome.
So they taught me how to set it up and all that. And I did like 2 episodes and I was like, this isn't going to work. But my point is, we're entering a new territory. It's super confusing. A lot of people getting in trouble out there. A lot of people doing great things and bringing awareness to causes out there.
Yes.
So I'm a bit conflicted on it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, Janae.
Well, when I think of military influencers, you're one of those people that I think of, because you're taking the platform that you have and you are actually combining it with military leaders. And so you're pulling them in and you're helping them to kind of gain that awareness of the greatness that's out there. Because like you said, there is a TikTok boots where they post cringe videos, and the boot thing is basically they're saying, you know, they're right out of boot camp and they're posting.
Is that what that means?
Yeah,
I never knew that.
Yeah, a boot.
It all makes sense.
A boot is basically somebody who's like right out of boot camp and is already trying to get a clout for their uniform, and so that's what it is. And so they're kind of but you're not a boot, so it's funny that you got posted there. But they kind of have expanded since then. But it really started out with them posting, you know, young military members who just got out of boot camp, or some who aren't even in the military, who use military uniform for clout. And so that kind of gave military influencers a negative light. And so what you're doing, and what some of the other influencers that I've been watching that are coming up in the military realm are doing, is spreading positive awareness of the great things that people are doing in the military. Your Hero Front podcast is an example of that. And so I think it's important, and I like that you say that you had kind of already started with the PA when you got started, because I think that was why I brought this topic up, because I think the military is not tapping in to that opportunity still, because of that fear of it being cringe or it crossing the line, that they're not taking the time to, some people are not taking the time to really learn it, understand it, and understand how they can use it to really help. So my industry that, I work for the military and I work for Air Force Lodging, and we're a self-sustaining enterprise. And so we need to market our brand. And so it's important for us to start to tap into social media and to show all the great things that we're doing, and that the amazing people that we have working for Air Force Lodging that are supporting our military, and show their stories and show who they are. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring it up, just because I think there's a lot of greatness out there, but there's still this fear of people accepting it and even embracing it. And I think that's holding us back a little bit.
Definitely. No, those are all outstanding points. And I'll tell you what got our foot in the door was COVID.
Mm-hmm.
That's when everything changed.
Yep.
Like, even my podcast probably wouldn't have worked, pre-COVID. It's because of COVID, and because the Air Force leader said, hey, this is all we have to communicate, so use that. Yeah. And then once that happened, it kind of changed everything.
Well, that's when I got on TikTok. That's when I started using it, was during COVID. Because before that, I was in the office all day. I didn't have time. But when I started staying home, I had a little bit more time. I was not using that commute time. And so I was able to start kind of looking at it. People were turning to TikTok for relief from the stress that the pandemic was causing. There was a lot of humor happening there. It was kind of silly. And so that's where I got on there. And then I quickly kind of grew from there.
I think that's an understatement. All right, Darielle, I want to hear your thoughts.
I think military influencers have such an opportunity to reach out to they have an opportunity to expand their sphere of influence that's not the traditional sphere of influence that they usually have in the workplace, right? Because, like, if you're a leader, no matter what rank, and you don't have to be a leader, you could be someone that's in charge of yourself and you have some peers around you, your sphere of influence is automatically those people in your workplace. If you're a military influencer, you have the opportunity to expand that sphere of influence outside of the workplace, and through social media platforms, reach people that you would have never had the chance to reach out to. I would have never found you. Maybe I would have at Hero Front down the line, but because Janae is an influencer herself, and I've been following her over the last couple of years, and she did this podcast, her initial podcast with you. I checked you out, and then your other episodes that you've done and interviewing others, their stories have touched me and have helped me grow, either as a leader, as a mom, as a person, and it helps people reach others that they never would have been able to reach out to. And then it has the potential, the military influencers have the potential to change lives, change trajectories for people's careers and for their lives, really.
Wow, that was actually really beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so
very
much
powerful.
For that. It was.
Thanks.
And I think, that's, you have a lot of really good points there. Like, think about like when we joined, that if you didn't have that mentor or that person, you would never, there's so many things you just would not even be aware existed, right? Like special duties, different jobs that are out there, different benefits that are out there. Like, it makes your circle like that much bigger, and therefore it kind of empowers that person hearing that story. So yeah, there's a book called Paperback Mentor that's written by a chief that is basically that, like the beginning of the book talks about, I didn't have a good supervisor. So like he created a supervisor in a book for airmen. Wow. So like if they didn't have that person, they could read this book and then get the tools from the book. So I kind of see podcasting as a bit of the same thing. So a few things on my mind about it. One, there is a certain level of resiliency needed when you put yourself on social media if you're in the military. Not everyone, no matter how good your message is, no matter how well received it is, not everyone is going to like it. And I think because there's so much personal power in it, because of the connections, the networking, the audience, how far the message goes, if there's a leader who's threatened by that, they're not going to like it, regardless of what the message is.
Yeah.
They're not going to like that it even exists.
Right.
So you're absolutely right. Like if that's where your audience is, if that's where your airmen are at,
Mm-hmm.
that's where you need to be. You need to find a way to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
But to just say, you're an idiot, stop, is not going to work.
You know what I think too? I think that there's that the difficulty in connecting, you at work with you outside of work, right? So at the Pentagon, those who are watching your podcast, they only know you as that, right? But the people at work, they know you for who you are at work. And so they don't understand what they're seeing when they see you online. And so maybe they just, it's kind of like when you grow, the people that are in your circle, they don't know how to accept the new you. And so I feel like when you're a social media influencer and the people who work with you, they don't know how to see you beyond what they see you at work. And so it's weird. It makes them feel weird. Like, what are they doing? You are that person, but you're changing. You're kind of, like when you're at home.
Well, you're at work. You're not chilling at home on your free time with your friends.
Right. Like the way you behave with your children is different from the way you behave with your coworkers. And so I see it kind of the same as social media. When I'm on social media and I'm in front of the camera, I'm going to be performing a little bit differently. I'm still the same person with the same morals, same ethics, but I'm going to be performing a little bit differently than I am at work,
Right.
And so I think that's where people just kind of have a challenge of accepting it. Does that make sense?
Or maybe there's just a stigma around the fact, or not the fact, the perception that that's not okay when it really is okay.
Mm-hmm.
To have the delineation between how you present yourself on social media and how you present yourself at work. And some people think that it's supposed to be the same or misperceive that it's supposed to be the same when really there are different intentions and objectives that you have, especially as an influencer and a professional military member. And we just have to tell ourselves that's okay to see those two different sides and accept that it's the same person.
Right.
That's actually a really good point, because typically when you leave work, people probably do have that perception that when you're at home, you're still the same professional person you are, and they don't see who you are at home and they don't see who you are in your hobbies. Yeah. But when you take a public stance, they do see that. And so they see that you aren't the same person. Yeah, that's a really good point.
So yeah, I guess I'll conclude with this. Keep it positive.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you go online, there's enough negative things out there. So if you are going to represent the military, keep it positive. Keep a positive message, because people need that. You have a unique opportunity for such a wide audience, to hit the message to someone who might not be hearing it in their everyday life. But then I would also say stay resilient, because again, no matter how positive it is, like not everyone's going to be on board with it. So tread lightly is what I would say.
Yep. Very well said.
Agreed.
Leadership and mental health.
I look at, so right now we have an opportunity in front of us to lead with the understanding of how people's mental health is being affected by our leadership style. And so historically for me, being in the military, Navy specifically, I had a lot of like draconian style leaders, or it was kind of like just suck it up and get the job done. And so they didn't really take into consideration the whole person that I was and the needs that I had. As a military leader, I recognize that I have people who are going to come under my leadership who may only be there for 2 years or 3 years. However, they have a 20-year career behind them, right? And just like in a marriage or anything else in life, you're going to have highs and lows. And some people's careers outlive their marriages and outlive almost everything in their life. And so I have to recognize as a leader that there may be someone who comes across my job who is at a low. And instead of taking them lower by starting to, kind of hound on them and not recognize their history and the time that they have given to the military, I need to give them maybe some grace and maybe even some space to help them kind of pull themselves back out of that low. And I think that's where, when we talk about mental health, a lot of leaders maybe miss the mark because they're not willing to recognize that that person doesn't just come to you with that 2 years of experience that you're going to see in front of you. They come with 15 years prior to that, where they may have been a stellar airman or a stellar sailor, and something has happened in their life right before they got to you where you need to be a different type of leader for them. And so that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I think that we have an opportunity for a lot of leaders to recognize that you have people that are going to come to you and highs and lows, and to just kind of learn how to work with that and recognize that.
So do you see, when someone shows up as a low, do you ever see those people get like tossed to the side or like given up on?
Not only given up on, but sometimes even used as kind of a scapegoat for the work center, especially if you have maybe a toxic leader. This is an opportunity for them to pinpoint that person, kind of use them as a scapegoat, and then it just kind of creates a situation in the entire culture where everyone sees that person as the scapegoat, and everybody distances themselves from that person because they don't want to upset the leader, and it just pushes that person deeper down into their low instead of giving them grace and trying to help them back out.
Yeah, no. I've been researching like narcissistic leaders more here than I ever have researched before. So I've been learning a lot about it, educating myself on it, and scapegoats is a thing. Mm-hmm. Like, it's any narcissistic, toxic leader always has a scapegoat. Mm-hmm. And every single work center, they'll find who's going to take the blame for every single mistake in that work center. And then, just like you said, everyone else around knows of this. You know, as a person, you're going to catch on to that. Like, mm-hmm. Dang, I don't want to be that guy. So then you just let that person fail because you don't want to be the next scapegoat.
Mm-hmm. Spot on. Spot on.
Yes, so that is a rough spot mm-hmm. to be in, very rough.
Yes, and it just pushes that person lower, and so I think, you know, there's so much talk about mental health, especially in the military, and I think there's just opportunity for us to really grow in that arena of just recognizing where people are in their very long-term career and what they need at that specific point of time, instead of treating everybody the same. And, you know, maybe have a high performer and that person who's low performing, just pushing them further down because they're not coming up to that level, right?
Right. And, you know, with toxic leaders, they're very short-sighted, right? So they're just looking week to week. What was this turned in on time? Did this meeting go well? They're very much focused week to week to week. They never look at the big picture. Mm-hmm. And so the big picture would be actually taking time to invest in someone who's having a hard time, helping them out, giving them your time, your wisdom, your mentorship, with the intention of trying to let them succeed mm-hmm. and to find their way to succeed. Mm-hmm. To give up on them and want to just kick them out, that doesn't help anyone, mm-hmm. right? Like, if we're in a war here, giving up on people should not be what we're doing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They joined for a reason. All this money and time's been put into them. And so I find it incredibly short-sighted when I see people given up on so quickly. It's very disheartening. What's your thoughts?
I think mental health is a huge topic, especially for leadership. If you look at a workplace, a typical military workplace, there is an array of diversity, diverse backgrounds, ethnicities, generations of people in their, early 20s, as young as like 17 or 18 in the Air Force. And then you have the older crowd. You have people that are going through divorce, that are single parents, that are think of all the different variables that people are dealing with, and the different upbringings of these people. If you're a leader and that's in your workplace, which I guarantee you it is, each individual deals with mental health differently. And Janae had a really great point. You can't just have a blanket solution and treat everybody equally in that way. As a leader, you have to be flexible in flexing your leadership style and the way that you communicate to others to help kind of tailor that mental health care plan that you have as a leader for each individual on your team because of their backgrounds and because of the way, like maybe some people need space. Maybe some people need to be brought in to a room and they need to talk to you and you need to listen. And so it's really important for us as leaders to understand that there's not one solution for this problem set.
I'll tell you one thing that does help though. Trust.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's a line that we just don't even think about anymore. Trust is like the foundation of any relationship. Something we've heard since childhood. And that never really struck me. It struck me in two occasions. One where I had a lot of trust and another time where I had zero. And now I know the difference. So when I was in a work center with a lot of trust, that's when a lot of truths came out, right? Like, hey, I was assaulted. Help! How do I get help? Finally, that person felt comfortable to say that.
Yes.
Hey, I've been thinking about, ending my life because, of this really traumatic experience. I don't know how to handle it. So I saw a lot of people finally feeling comfortable to admit what is killing them, slowly over time. And so I think that trustful environment actually saved a few people's lives in that situation based on, the things that I was hearing because they felt comfortable to do that. They knew that, we had each other's backs, and that took us to a whole nother level as a team. I've also seen a lack of trust, and it's very distracting when you're on someone's team, but you're not on their team.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's almost like you're the enemy, like your enemies working together. And it's the most ineffective ass-backwards approach. It's so distracting and
It's paralyzing.
it's paralyzing.
You're afraid. You're afraid to speak up. You're afraid to make decisions. And like you said, people around see. And so then it starts to create fear on other people on the team.
And then you're afraid to seek out mental health support.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
Right.
That doesn't lead to good things.
Right, you start bottling things up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like that we're going in the direction now too in the military. It seems to be like way more approachable with the mental health subject.
Yeah.
Like, when I told y'all about the worst time of my life when I was at Whiteman that first time,
Right.
Drinking every day, almost died of the heart virus, and then came back home from the hospital, still drinking every day. I was like, oh, I won't do that again. Wrong. But I refuse to go to mental health. Like the stigma of it, I just absolutely refuse to. And I could have got myself killed, but luckily I found a way. But have y'all ever been in that situation where you needed help, and you either didn't feel comfortable to ask or you did feel comfortable to ask? Did that ever happen to you?
Yeah, I was when I was in E5. I was drinking to kind of deal with my situation. I was drinking a lot, and I went to my chief and I said, I think I might have a drinking problem, and I was, I kind of was seeking help. I need help. I feel like I might have a drinking problem. I feel like I can't control it anymore, and I need help. And he outright told me, don't get help with the military. Because once you go to get help for the military, it will be on your record, and for the rest of your life, it will impact you, or the rest of your career, it will impact you. And he said, find another way to deal with it, because if you ever have a drink again, you will be kicked out of the military. And so I was afraid to seek out help with the military, with the benefits that I had available to me, because of how it might affect my career in the future. So I actually did experience that, just like you said, because there was a stigma at the time on mental health.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang. What about you, ma'am?
I've had more of, I'll give a positive kind of example, right?
Okay.
Where I did feel like I had a leader that created an environment that made me feel safe enough to ask for help. And because I don't want to get into all the details because of time and everything, but I had a year where I was really struggling because I wanted to grow my family. And I actually was going through some fertility issues that kind of prohibited the timeline from me and my husband to try and grow our family and have a child of our own. And it was kind of challenged with a lot of other external variables, medical variables that was just kind of punching me in the face, and it felt like a punch to the gut and really pulling me down. And I felt safe enough and happy enough in my work environment to ask for a break, to ask for, hey, I need a day, and I asked for a few days actually, here and there, to kind of get my mind right and talk to my medical providers, try and figure this out, because there was a time where I had 4 deployments back to back within 4 years, and I got to this next assignment, and I said, I got to slow down, and I need that time for me, and I felt so much better about that. Mm-hmm. My leadership gave me that time, and they said, take a lap, go home, do your research, get a second opinion, figure out how you can grow your family, and I'm forever thankful for that. It changed the trajectory of me growing my family.
So the short-sighted answer would have been, I mean, you can take leave. They would have. That's what they would have said.
Right.
And you might have, just said, screw this, I'm separating. But then that one investment where they might not have you for X amount of time might have led to, this happy life that you've always wanted, and now you're going to do 20 years. So that's what I was saying. The toxic leader is always short-sighted and doesn't see the big picture.
Right.
Like this awesome leader knew that he needed to do that, make that investment in you. Not just because it's, good for the Air Force, but also because as a human being,
right,
that's the right thing to do.
I almost separated. There are statistics out there that show the growing rate of people leaving because of the factors that are challenging their ability to grow their family in the military, not just the Air Force. And so it's important for leaders to understand that other side of things and to give people that space and that grace and that time. That is extremely important for people, especially if we want to keep retention rates in the military. That's a whole other discussion.
Right. So did the extra time help? Did you?
It did. It gave me the answers that I needed. It gave me some time to cope with the news that I had with my fertility issues. I can talk about it now without crying. And it gave my husband and I time and space to figure out the next few steps that we wouldn't have been able to figure out if they sent me on another deployment.
Right.
Or if they sent me on another long trip somewhere.
Gotcha.
Away from my medical team.
Wow. Yeah, that continued care is so important. The last few appointments I had have always been with a different doctor. And it's so frustrating, like starting over and then starting over and then starting over when something's going on, but like you need that time with that same person to figure it out. Yeah. Because when it's a new person, they have a whole process for the new person. You know what I mean? Like they need to do it their way. They're not going to pick up where the last doctor left off.
Right.
So I'm glad you got that time.
Thank you.
And I'm really glad that, you're sharing these stories too. Like I can tell it's hard for you to talk about. So I'm incredibly proud of you too for, coming to a place where you can, speak about that so other people can benefit from it.
No, I appreciate you and I appreciate what you're doing. And it's forums like these where we can share our story and then maybe we can affect someone else that's going through something similar, and then it just helps them along their own personal journey.
This is when you were talking about that sphere of influence.
Yeah.
As you were telling your story, I was thinking the fact that they retained you, you're now that leader that's going to know how to give someone grace when they're in the situation that you were in, right? But you've just shared your story with soon to be millions of people. And so you have just expanded your sphere of influence in your story. And so there's going to be people out there who just heard what you had to say, and it's going to also change their perception when they deal with someone who's going through what you went through. So it's super powerful and very courageous.
Thank you.
Definitely. All right, well, that wraps up our topic, y'all. Any final thoughts?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm so excited to be here and finally see you guys in person. We have all been connected for years on social media, and I see both of you as incredibly powerful and inspirational leaders and military influencers. And so I'm really honored to be here with you and to be able to, all of us to share our thoughts and our stories. And so what a great opportunity. This is what the military does. It comes full circle. We're all full circle on this one.
Absolutely. How do you two know each other?
I found Janae, I want to say it's been a few years.
I think your husband bought you clothes from my brand.
And I think simultaneously you were just popping up on my feeds on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And then I read a little bit, I clicked the About section on your website, and it spoke to me, the Perfectly Flawed, and how you were trying to create this body positive movement. And, we all kind of have our own insecurities, and then you helped me the message was great, and it helped me overcome that. I reached out to Janae. I loved the clothes. And then I applied to be an ambassador for her brand, and then
you got that coupon code?
And then I just kept in touch ever since, and I've just been watching her grow and succeed, and continuing to support her and hype her up.
So do you have a lot of friends like this that you've made?
Yes, and these are lifelong connections that I've made just through Perfectly Flawed, and it's the community that we've built. And I've been incredibly inspired by Darielle and her story as well. And so just the way she feels about me, I feel about her. And so when I was coming out here, the first person I reached out to was Darielle. I was like, I have to see her. There's no option. I'm going to see her because I feel like she's one of my best friends, even though it's always been virtual. And so
Wow.
that's the connection of social media.
Definitely. And then podcasting is kind of like therapy. Because we don't often take time to think through things and then speak it out loud. We really don't do that.
Mm.
You know what I mean? When you're with your family, there's only certain, they don't want to hear, my wife doesn't want to hear about my annoying day, so I have different talks with different people, but podcasting is like therapy in that we pick topics and then we think through them. Mm-hmm. Which I think is kind of therapeutic because you get to speak your piece and then you hear a different, perspective on it. So I thought y'all were just incredible people. And I just want to tell you, thank you so much for just being you. I haven't finished the book yet, but as much as I've been through it, and then of course our other podcasts, I just don't think, I think you're a 0.00001% chance to be where you're at now, but somehow you found the path to get there. I've been through much less than you, and it almost broke me. So I can't imagine the strength and the resilience and the determination. You're just a special person to do the things that you've done, and to impact the people that you have is just a blessing. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for kicking ass and inspiring us on a daily basis. Keep going.
Thank you.
Just keep going.
Thank you.
And then maybe I can work for you when I retire. Could you imagine?
I mean, I'd be so lucky.
Oh my God, we take over the world.
Right?
My God.
I'd be so lucky to have you on the team, definitely.
And then Darielle, we just met, but I can tell you're a really good person. You have a good heart. I don't know. When you're in the military, you kind of have a knack for picking up on people pretty quickly because you kind of have to. Right, you need to know how to work with that person. So we're kind of get used to picking up on things rather quickly. And what I'm picking up from you is you have a really good heart. That's just the answers that you've had. The way you expressed yourself. I think we need more of that. There's a lot of people who take the easy route, which is being cold and distant and authoritative, and that's actually the easier way to do it. It's much more challenging to, be vulnerable and actually care about someone, right? That's actually the harder thing to do, the more challenging thing to do. So I feel like you're that type of leader, and keep doing that because we need more of it. You're probably impacting more people than you realize.
Thank you. That means a lot. I try.
Keep trying.
When I did my first like round of podcasts, you were one of the first people, and I told Darielle this story in the car the other day. You were one of the first people that interviewed me. And I didn't grow up having people tell me they were proud of me. And a lot of people, when they say it, it's kind of just like, oh, I'm proud of you, you know, but when you said it, it really hit because you were so genuine in the way you said it. And it meant so much to me. And so your impact is extremely powerful. And the way that you see other people, we see you. You're a very special person. You're amazing. The military is so lucky to have you. And I am incredibly honored to be in your presence right now. So I just want to personally thank you.
Right now.
I feel very, very sincere about that. I was telling Darielle and her husband about that the other day. And when you said, I'm proud of you, like you meant it. And it really hit me because I needed to hear that at that moment. And so thank you.
Wow. Hey, we're homies for life.
Yes, definitely.
Thank y'all for sharing that. All right, y'all. We had an incredible talk today. We finally got to meet in person. We had two fans met Janae today. And we're on TikTok. So it couldn't get any more Janae than that. The only thing more Janae right now would be if she did like a handstand on the wall.
Oh my gosh, you saw that.
I saw that. That would be a 10.
Oh, I might break the window.
All right, well, I wanted to just thank everyone for listening this long, and we'll catch you on the next one.